Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special new podcast that we have. We'll get into it right away, and I'll explain it. We're very excited to bring this podcast to you. It is a new podcast focusing on Sorare. Sorare, for those that are not familiar, is a new NFT slash fantasy hybrid game that is one of the first of its kinds in its industry. I am Sean, PSU Fans 2 Newsham, your host for today. Joining me is one of the Sorare Andrews. He does some podcasts in the industry as well, Andy Black. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I noticed your intro voice there was like 3 octaves higher than it normally is.
Yeah, I got to bring a little bit of excitement, especially when introducing something. And I
love it.
This is something you and I are both pretty passionate about. I'm pretty excited to be able to do a podcast involving Sorare. So this is something that is definitely very interesting for me, and I'm excited to have you on for the first ever episode of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that you invited me. I love Sorare. I've been around Sorare now since almost the beginning of it. So just to see it grow up from this small, tiny child to what it is now has just been kind of an incredible experience.
Definitely. And for everyone that is new to Sorare or just checking out this podcast to find out a little bit more about it, I'll give you a brief rundown on it. So Sorare is a NFT hybrid fantasy sports product that is new to the industry. It's been around for a few years, but it's been more popular over the recent months. Obviously, it came on really heavily when NBA Top Shots was going on, for those that are familiar with that. I'm sure we'll talk about during this video a bit about why we both believe that Sorare is a better product than what NBA Top Shots is currently, and why people should get involved. And Andy, why don't you explain to people a little bit like what an NFT is if they're not familiar, what that could be, and like what they get by being part of Sorare and owning these cards?
Yeah, for sure. So the easiest way to describe it is it's a token on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain. And really, there's 2 types of tokens that can go into an Ethereum wallet. You have an ERC20 token, and those are like projects like Uniswap or any of the other like coins that are built upon Ethereum that either use fundraising or have some sort of utility on the Ethereum blockchain are kind of fall into that category. And all of those are exactly the same. It's like one coin is one coin. The cool thing about non-fungible tokens is they're all different. They all have different attributes. You look at like CryptoPunks, every single CryptoPunk has like a different thing, like some smoking a cigarette, some have spiky hair or green skin. So they have all these different unique attributes that kind of set them apart from all the other ones. The unique thing with Sorare cards is they have, like a unique serial number associated with them. So our rare cards are 1 through 100, super rare cards are 1 through 10, and our unique cards are 1 of 1s. I wouldn't say like one Brandon Michelle card is different than another card, except for the fact that they do gain experience and there's some other things that are done off chain. But for the most part, these Sorare cards are all very similar, except for like a Leo Messi and a Brandon Michelle card are much different as far as they go in the utility when it comes to this game. So the value of owning an NFT is you can store it in your wallet, you can own it, you can transport it somewhere else. So there's a lot of different websites out there now that are building side games off of Sorare, and you can purchase your Sorare cards, you can play with them on Sorare, and you can play with them on all these other sites. So the way I liken it is every year we have people spending billions of dollars on FIFA Ultimate Team. At the end of the year, what happens?
You lose it. Everything's gone.
Yeah, you lose it all. They might give you some credits going into the next year or whatever, but you lose it all essentially, and you start over and you acquire all the players again. But EA kind of owns they own all your cards, and they can kind of dictate what happens in the next year. They can delete them all. They can say, oh, everybody gets to, maybe it'll be a keeper league this year and everybody gets to keep a card or whatever. But with NFTs, you own them. They're in your wallet. You have full control of them. And that's what's most important.
Definitely. And for those of you who are new to Sorare and do not currently have an account, make sure you check in the link to in the description and you sign up using that link. You'll receive 1 free rare card once you purchase 5 rare cards out of the auction house, which we'll explain to you as this show goes on. And for the first 2 episodes today, and then we'll be having another one a little bit later in the week, will be an introductory to Sorare and how to use Sorare and how to use information-based sites to use Sorare properly. So we'll be doing an introductory series over the next couple weeks, and then after that we'll be talking more game theory and strategy going forward. But as Andy said, you own these cards, and each card similar in the fact that they all are digital cards on the blockchain and on Sorare. Each card is unique in the aspect that there is 1 of 100, which is the rare version of the card, which you see here in the red version on my screen. You see a Brian Heyman. So this is the number 2 of 100 Brian Heyman card for the season 2021-22. And after the season, no more cards of Brian Heyman can be minted, for example. So you're looking at each year, there is 111, as of right now, possible cards that can be minted for a player. The exciting thing that's starting right now in the next couple days for all new users is they are coming up with a new scarcity level, which will be 1 of 1,000, called the limited scarcity level. This is going to bring a lower entry point for people to be able to come and enter the game and play and produce results and sort of own their own team and decide how they want to approach things. And everyone has a different way of approaching things. The nice thing with Sorare is there's an ability to collect cards. If you find cards to be collectible, for example, you might look for Cristiano Ronaldo and you'll pull up a Cristiano Ronaldo card, or let's say Lewandowski, for example. So you pull up a Robert Lewandowski card, you see here on Sorare some of the statistics that he has, and you can see his last 5 games, his statistics. You can see his upcoming features, and then you can see some of his past games and his score lines. If you click on cards right here, you can go and see what cards are available to purchase of Robert Lewandowski. So you see here that there are 2 cards available for purchase, and you can also see other cards that have been purchased of Robert Lewandowski in the past. And you can decide to own cards via collectability. Like, let's say you think people are really going to want a Robert Lewandowski in the future to own. You might want to buy one. You can also buy cards based on utility, which we'll explain a little bit later in this show as well. And that utility comes from them playing in fantasy contests. Them playing in fantasy contests leads you to earning rewards, which can come in the form of either ETH, or it can come in the form of other cards to be used for either collectability or utility. So Andy, what is your preference when looking for cards? Do you sort of prefer utility, or do you prefer the collectability in your collection?
It's really both. I think that I tend to prefer utility, and I don't like to kind of fork over all the money and buy the best players, because that's not really the budget that I'm playing with. And really the way I describe Sorare is it's DFS, where the budget, where the cap is really your wallet. So, I mean, if you have $1 million and you want to come in and play Sorare and buy all the best players, certainly you can, and nothing is stopping you from doing that. I tend to be the player that is more looking for value, and I'm kind of I like to look at myself as more of the underdog, and I'm punching up and trying to win with the mediocre guys, or the guys that are kind of right on the fringe of being quote unquote elite. So I think anybody can come and play with their own strategy. You can, like I said, buy the best, or you can come in and buy unknown players that you think are going to blossom into stars later on down the road, and be extremely patient but frugal. the number of ways I've seen So Rare get played is incredible. There's people I know that I DM with back and forth on Twitter where they have been buying players now for the past like 3 months. And until Liga MX started, they hadn't played a single game yet, but they were buying all the right pieces so that right now, once Liga MX got going, they'd have a team ready to roar. And that was the only way they could make that happen in their budget. But kind of to circle back to your original question, I do buy some players as collectibles. I have some players that I like. I think that they have funny names or funny serial numbers or whatever. And I consider those collectibles. Or like Hans Van Aken, he's a good player in SO5, but he's kind of like the SO5 like GOAT. He's like a platform card. He's like the original best player in the game. He's not anymore, but he's still a strong SO5 scorer. But it's just kind of cool to own his cards because he's kind of like the original GOAT.
He is. He's like that throwback guy in DFS where everyone's like, oh, that guy's the guy that absolutely kills DFS and DFS games. And that's what Vonnegut is on the platform of So Rare. And we'll break down a little bit for you guys. We'll start out with this. So one of the reasons why I personally really enjoy So Rare compared to DFS, Andy has a bit of a background in DFS. He's played a little bit before and dabbled. As some of you may,
I'm a fish.
He's a fish. He's not the best at DFS. He's a bit better at So Rare. And those that are familiar with me know that I've been a high-stakes DFS player in numerous sports over the year, especially soccer, and that's why I came to So Rare as well. But my favorite aspect of So Rare is each game week, and a game week consists of what you would consider a lock in DFS, but it's basically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is one game week. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is another game week. So there's 2 game weeks per individual week. Each game week, you can utilize the cards in which you own in order to enter tournaments to win other cards and or ether prizes. The best part about it, and the difference from DFS that most of you guys will find appealing, the buy-in for every single one of these contests is $0. So every single game week, you can enter cards into these fantasy contests, win prizes, and not pay a single dollar. The only fee that you're effectively paying is for a given card to own. However, you own that card. So, for example, if we're looking at Robert Lewandowski and we see that he is 1.8 ETH to buy, and we decided that's what we want to do, and we bought him for 1.8 ETH, you can use Robert Lewandowski every single game week in an effort to earn future ETH prizes or card prizes, and you never lose the card. He will always be able to be played by you in those contests. So if we click on play up here, we see the open in game week 192, which is coming up in about a day and a half or so on Friday. It locks at 6 a.m. Eastern. So if we click on this, we go to the play department, and you're going to see that we have numerous divisions that we can enter and we can win cards at. So you see Global All-Star, which consists of every league put together. Any player that's playing in any of the leagues can be put into Global All-Star. We have Global U23, which is players that are under the age of 23 as of July 1st of that year through younger than that. And that is the only players you can enter in that region. We have Champion Europe, which are the big 5 leagues in Europe as a region. We have Challenger Europe, which is the Belgian league, the Dutch league, and different leagues like that. We have Champion America, which is LMX, which Andy was just talking about, MLS, and Brazil, and other leagues in Americas. And then we also have Champion Asia, which is the Asian leagues, the Japanese league, and the Korean league, with a sprinkle of the Chinese league as well. And then each week there's a special weekly prize or special weekly tournament that offers unique variants, where sometimes they'll be over the age of 32, or players that average under 40 points per game, or all Belgian players. They're different unique tournaments that they do each and every week. And then there's also the Global Unique Tournament, which is a tournament that is for the very high-end spenders that are playing the highest of the high. So Andy, within these regions, can you explain to people sort of what the difference is and like why the different regions can be appealing to different people for different reasons?
For sure. So the first place I'll go is Global All-Star D4, and that region is interesting because right now they offer a zero point 0.01 and 0.02 threshold payment if you just score enough points, which I think right now, what does that turn out to be? $30 and $60. All you got to do is hit a certain, I think it's 205 and then 250 for the higher payment. So you hit that score and you can make that amount of money, which is 30 or $60, which is pretty good. Over time, you can use that to fund a goalkeeper, fund a whatever player you need on your team. So that's cool. That's like a way of like constant returns. That division though, I don't know how many entrants it says is up there right now. Is that 600 or 6,000 or 8,000?
Yeah, 63.99.
So when it's all said and done, I think we'll be over 8,000 because this is going to be a big game week. I might be wrong, but this division is really roulette. Like to win, you just have to have 5 guys just totally blast off. And we've seen it. I think a friend of the show, Andrew Laird, won this a couple weeks ago. But it's just such a difficult division to win. But there are good prizes. It pays 300 card prizes or 270 something.
788.
Yeah, so a lot of card prizes. You get the threshold payment. So this is basically a new player's dream. You come in, play this division, and there are lots of opportunities to win different things. Across the other regions, I love playing U23 just because prizes are only U23 players. Even a bad tier 3 or a bad player that you win here is still a young player that could show promise down the road. So if I barely squeak into the rewards and finish 240th place or whatever, I'm getting a tier 3 reward of a U23 player that he may not be any good right now, but in 2 years he might make it into the first team and be excellent. So, or even shorter. I mean, a good example is we had a J League player named Kikuchi, and he was a tier 3 reward. A bunch of people scooped up, and I think 3 months later, he's the best scoring defender on the game. So that type of stuff does happen, and that's one of the reasons I like playing in that region.
Definitely. And for those of you that are wondering, for example, what you can win with some of the prize pools in terms of if you're playing D4, as Andy said, in global D4, if you hit the 205 point threshold, which is very achievable, and you hit the 250 point threshold, which is again very achievable, you guarantee yourself a prize. And as Andy said, the prize right now is not insignificant. You're looking at $32 or $64 each week. So if you win that 10 times over the course of a month, all of a sudden you just made $600 without losing anything, because your players are, again, you control your players and own them. So you're not losing them each and every week when they don't win or if something else happens. So it's very valuable. But for example, if you were to go and win a Division 4 global term, which again, Andy said is very difficult, but we know someone that has done that. I have been very close to doing it as well. I think, Andy, you've been close as well to doing that.
Oh, I've won it multiple times back in the early days.
There you go. So Andy's been around. So I've been on the platform for about 6 months now. Andy's been along quite a bit longer than that. So some players that you can win from winning this tournament are Neymar, Thibaut Courtois, Lewandowski, Martin van de Voort. And some of you probably won't be familiar with Van de Voort, but we'll talk about him a little bit here as well. But like, we're talking a Neymar rare card, which you would win for winning this tournament, is worth about 4 Ether right now. So you're talking about, if you win this tournament, you're winning like $14,000 that you didn't have to pay anything to enter. On the flip side, Andy talked about maybe winning a little bit lower end cards that aren't quite to that level. So maybe you're going to win in Oliver Mbiazo. And I've won him recently, twice actually. I've won his super rare version, which is the blue cards, which is a 1 of 10 scarcity. And Mabiazo is probably worth 0.1 Ether. So like 0.1 Ether, again, is probably about $300. So you can win a card that is worth $300 I wouldn't say super easily, but about 10 to 15% of the field is winning cards that are like that, or are like Mauricio Pereira, who again is worth about 0.1 ETH, or Lewis Morgan that is worth, like, let's say 0.07 ETH. So like you're able to win cards that are worth $200, $300 each and every game week without having to put additional money in, which is the very nice part about Sorare. Is your budget is whatever you determine your budget is. You don't have to pay an entry fee every single slate. So in DFS, you have to pay $20 every single week to play that $20 entry GPP. On Sorare, if you spend, let's say, $250, you can play that $20 entry GPP over and over and over and over again for years without spending another dollar, which is why it's very valuable. And in terms of prizes, we're talking about different players in different regions. You talk about a lot of people that come onto the forum, they're looking for big name players like Neymar and Courtois and Lewandowski. So you're seeing these players, and then you're like, who is Martin van de Voort? Van de Voort is one of the best goaltending prospects in the world, plays for Genk in Belgium. And you see a guy like this pop up. He pops up there because he is quite a valuable card on Sorare and worth quite a bit of money and ether. But the reason we talk about the different regions and why all players are interesting, for example. So Andy talked about Ryo Kikuchi, who was a 23-year-old defender in Japan for Vissel Kobe, I believe. And he is one of the best scorers on the entire platform. Well, he's not priced like that because generally the Japanese players and players in Asia and Champion America and Challenger Europe are less expensive than that of people in Champion Europe. So, for example, you might, a Neymar card, which I told you earlier was a 4 ether card. If you wanted to come on and buy the card, it would be a 4 ether card. You could buy a Theo Bongonda, who plays for Genk as well in Belgium, and they score very similarly, but Theo Bongonda only costs about 0.4 ether. So you're talking he costs 10% the price, and you can play them and they get similar returns. So by being able to learn and scout the different regions and being familiar, you can find a lot of value in different cards on the platform that then you can go into Global All-Star and you can play Bongonda against Neymar, and they both are expected to score very similarly. So it's a lot of ways for you to make stuff up and make money, and make intelligent purchases and stuff like that. So what regions do you find, Andy, that are generally undervalued that people might be able to find really good values at and be able to exploit the global region or just other regions in general?
Well, real quick, the regions, Champion Europe, we didn't really get into this. The thing that's most valuable about playing in that division is you can only win cards from the top 5 leagues.
Correct.
So a lot of people may not want to mess around with figuring out who this Kikuchi guy is or who Theo Bongonda is. So if you don't want to mess around with that, you just go into Champion Europe and you play in the top 5 leagues. It's higher stakes, it's more expensive, but it's like probably more scratch play. It's the best players against the best players in the world. So there is a reason to play that division, though. The prize pools in Global All-Star are not just the Champion Europe players. The prize pools in Global All-Star include players from all regions. So if you want to win if you're okay with winning a prize from anywhere in the world, Global All-Star is your place. With the lottery ticket of winning a Champion Europe player too, maybe. But if you only want to win Champion Europe players from the top 5 leagues, you got to go play in Champion Europe.
Correct. And something else that can be mentioned here, like Andy's talking about, is the nice issue with different regions is each region has, I would say, its own ecosystem. Champion Asia, for example, is much cheaper to play than Champion Europe. So if you are a big fan of the J League and the K League, and you're like, hey, I don't want to play any other league, you can come on the platform and just play the Asian League and have fun. Or, as Andy said, if you just care about PSG, Barcelona, Manchester United, and the big dogs and big teams, you can come in and just play Champion Europe, and you don't have to worry about the other regions. So it really is a situation in which you can pick and choose where you want to focus your time and effort on and where you want to focus at. I know myself personally, I have come onto the platform and have focused on every region. I find value in playing all the different regions, and I'm able to find different values within each set. And for me, that's been important. I know, Andy, you personally don't really like playing the Asian leagues. Maybe you could explain a little bit why you don't really enjoy those.
It's really hard to research, and I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's a lot of reading, a lot of digging on Twitter, a lot of translation. It's hard. They rotate a lot. They have some weird rules regarding U23 players and the number of subs they get. So you see a lot of rotation and stuff that I just don't want to deal with. So I've created like some really punty Asian teams that I just kind of like throw out there, and if I get lucky, I get lucky, whatever. But I don't really, there's no try hard for me out in those regions. I think that there's huge value in knowing specific players from those regions and using them in either Global All-Star or Global U23. And that's something I've not done a great job of, but I've seen other people exploit the hell out of it and really understand how well Kawasaki front tail rotates their players. And if you have that down and you can pull out Matoma or Tanaka or whoever and play them in U23 and know when they're going to play and not get a DMP, because that's the most important thing in this game, is never getting a DMP, which is a did not play. It's a player that didn't play. And we can get into that later, how the lock times affect that. But really, if you can get those players and play them in U23 or All-Star and know how to utilize them correctly, I think that there's ways to kind of exploit the game.
Definitely. And there's ways to get players that we talked about. There are guys that score just as well as the Neymars of the world that are in different regions. So other people don't touch those regions. Well, you can come in and pay 0.5 ETH for a player that Neymar would be 4 ETH. You're saving yourselves a lot of money getting the similar output. So it's great value.
I think real quick, Sean, I think the strategy that I've seen from you so far is I don't want to buy Neymar. I want to win Neymar with the guys that aren't Neymar.
Correct. And Andy has a similar strategy. So what both of our strategies sort of are on the platform is we are out here trying to win these really expensive cards. My goal is to go out each and every game and each and every week and hopefully win these big cards. For example, a card that I've won is Ryan Gravenberch. He's one of the best prospects in the world, plays for Ajax in the Netherlands, and he's probably a 1.5 Ether card. So I didn't want to buy him per se. I really wanted to go out and win him. So one week I had a really good team in Belgium, or I think it was in the Belgian league. My Belgian team did really well, and I ended up winning the division. And I ended up winning his card, which I was ecstatic about. So the way that the prizes work each week is you finish in a position, if we look at Global All-Star D4, and if you look over here, the position indicates which tier your reward is. Once you know which tier your reward is, each week Sorare pays out rewards on Tuesdays and Fridays, about a couple hours after the lock of that week's slate. They pay out the week before, and you win a card that is within that tier. So, for example, if you finish 40th this upcoming week in Global All-Star D4, you will receive a Tier 1 rare card from Global All-Star D4 prize pool. So you don't get to actually pick which card you win, but you will get one of these cards listed in this list. And this list is generally broken down by value of what the cards are worth in the secondary market and then the sales market. And Sorare will randomly get you a card. So I know myself personally, it's not quite like pulling packs on FIFA Ultimate Team if people play that. But for me, every single week, it's really exciting, especially if I end up with a good card. Do you get really excited going to your rewards, Andy?
Oh, for sure. It's basically opening a pack. And I think more so because the deviation in these prize pools right now is so great. And I know that they're tuning it. They're going to make it better. But right now, the the difference between the best card in the star pool and the worst card in the star pool is pretty different. I mean, Neymar is a 4 ETH card or something like that. And then there's probably also cards in that same pool that are maybe like a half ETH, 0.4 ETH or something like that. So in the end, they probably need a superstar tier where like Neymar and maybe eventually Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, some of those guys go and they're kind of protected because the difference between Neymar, Mbappe, and I think there was like an Eloy room in the that prize pool. It's like, they're pretty different.
Yeah, and people will. Some weeks you will get let down by the rewards that you get. You'll still be probably happy, but like Andy said, you could hit a 4 ETH Neymar or you could hit a 0.4 ETH Eloy room. So Sorare is still working through prize pools and making sure things get adjusted. But I know people from DFS industry will know this, that sometimes DraftKings and FanDuel don't generally make the best decisions all the time. Sorare has been pretty good at making the right decisions. They might not get it right away, but they listen to the community and do a very good job of interacting and working through and finding what the right decision is. So if for you guys that are coming in, you can be pretty confident that the decision making that tends to go into these things seems to be pretty good. In my personal experience in 6 months, and I know Andy, you said that you've always been impressed with what they come to at the end of the day for decisions.
Yeah, for sure. They listen to their community more than any other project or company I've ever really seen. They have a couple of guys that are like active in the Discord that are listening, and you can tell that feedback goes all the way up the chain, because if there is something that needs to be addressed and people are chatting about it, they will at least come out and say, hey, sorry, we know we messed up. We're working on it. We're going to fix it. And I know that they're a growing team right now, but I still think that it's a dozen guys that are running this thing, and it could be worth $4 billion is what they're saying. So team's growing really fast, and I think I'll give them a little plug. They're hiring. So if we have any developers out there, I'm sure they'd love to hear from you.
Definitely, for sure. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit here about the divisions, because people have heard us talking about the prize pools and different things. So each region, which is the Global All-Star, Global U23 Champ Europe, etc., those are all the regions. Within each region, there is a Division 4, a Division 3, a Division 2, and a Division 1. So when you look at these divisions, they each have their own personal requirements in order to enter them. And we're recording this on a Wednesday night. There is expected to be big news in the next day or two. That is a new scarcity that we talked about earlier, which will be the limited edition, which will be 1 of 1,000. And the other options that they currently have are the rare cards. And rare cards are red cards on the platform, and they are 1 of 100. So they go up to 100 editions of that card. There is the super rare card.
Real quick, Sean.
Yeah.
Go back to the rare cards.
Sure.
They have a bonus on them that goes from 0 to, I guess, 10% or something like that. So that's kind of an important feature of each scarcity.
Correct. And we'll explain this a bit too when we go through the division. So as you see here, this is a new card. This Cameron Humphreys card is currently for auction, which we'll talk about as well. And it has a 5% bonus. So rare cards, which are the red cards, go from a 0 to 10% bonus. The year that the card is minted, so again, this is the 2021, 22 season, they have a 5% bonus for the year. As the year goes and you play the card, whether it be in the tournaments we just talked about, or there are training tournaments, which we will also talk about, players earn XP. As the players generate XP, you get a higher bonus on your card. So for example, if I play Cameron Humphreys every single week, every single game week, and I play him in a lineup that has a decent amount of points that are produced, all of a sudden this 5% bonus will go to 5.5%. And then 6%, and then 6.5%. And this number, you can have 0 to 10% end game bonus. I don't know what their term is, but it's like final bonus, and then 5% bonus on a season card. I haven't seen a card above 12%. Have you?
No.
So like 10 to 12% is the highest it can get realistically. But as the season goes away, he loses the 5% from that year. This would be 0, but then you retain whatever XP bonus you produced. So I will show you some of my cards later that have some XP boost. This comes an invaluable part of every single game week for your players. I know personally, and I know Andy's the same way, each game week, you might win or lose a card or a better card by a half a point. Well, if a card has a 6-point bonus and he scores 50 points, compared to if he has a 4% bonus and he scores 50 points, I make that 1 point up and will beat that person. So getting your bonus up is very important. And Andy, I know that's something like you take very seriously, the training. And how many times have you lost a card or lost a reward based on losing by, let's say, a half a point or less?
Yeah, the biggest thing and the most noticeable time is when you're like really, like you have a really good team one week and maybe you're fighting for a podium or a top 10 or something. And that's when I notice it the most, because that's when I'm really watching, like, how close am I to the guy right above me or next to me or whatever. And yeah, a lot of times it comes down to 1 point or less. And it's like, can be infuriating when it's just like, if I would have not missed training that player that week or whatever. Yeah, it happens all the time, and it's really important that, you know, you're always either training your players or using your players.
Definitely. And I'm going to show an example of this that can really happen. So last week in Global All-Star D1, I scored 437 points, 437.76 points. Fourth place put up 437.12 points, and fifth place put up 435.54 points. So I finished third. If I didn't train my cards well, or if I lost, let's say, 1% on one of my cards, that could have resulted in me finishing fourth or fifth place last week. Well, last week finishing third place was 0.6 ETH and a tier 1 super rare card, which is probably worth like 1 ETH in terms of value. And fourth place got 1 super rare card in the tier 1 level, which is worth about 1 ETH. And fifth place got nothing. So from last week, the difference between third was about $5,000 on average. Fourth was about $3,000 on average, and fifth was nothing. So if that does not explain to you how like important getting your XP and your bonuses up, I'm not sure what will. It's very crucial in the long run. Like on a given week-to-week thing, it might not be a big deal. But like Andy said, that 1 week where you're in second place and you're 0.25 points behind first, and you have a guy that maybe you could have trained an extra percentage point at some point, you will really regret it that time. And I know a lot of people, I don't really get too upset with that because I know I do everything I can. But I've talked to people where like they are devastated when that happens. Do you end up devastated, Andy, or are you like a little bit more like, okay, it's no big deal?
I'm so chill with everything. It's like, on to the next week, man. On to the next week.
Definitely. So anyways, go back to the divisions, and then we'll talk about the scarcity levels again. So again, you have divisions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in division 4, you have to play 4 rare cards or 5 rare cards. 4 rare cards in a common or 5 rare cards. I would recommend 5 rare cards. We think that might change in the coming days. So we'll just say that it's generally rare cards. And the rare cards are the 1 of 100 scarcity. Their bonus can be from 0 to 10%. And they are generally priced a little bit lower than the next level. The next level up is called the super rare class. This is a 1 of 10 cards. So there are 10 max editions of each card per season in this region. These cards get a 20 to 30% bonus when played. Now, you cannot enter these cards in Division 4. These cards, however, can be deployed in Division 3, 2, and 1. You can enter up to 2 in Division 3. You can enter up to 2 in Division 1, and you can enter all 5 if you would like in Division 2. And I know a lot of people on the platform have talked about rares or super rares versus uniques. I think both you and I view super rares as like the most valuable scarcity because their ability to move from D3 to D2 to D1 is a bit better than what rares. So rares can be played in D4, Division 3, and Division 2, but super rares are really helpful in moving up from Division 3 to Division 2 and Division 2 to Division 1. So Andy, why don't you talk a little bit about like why you think super rares are so valuable?
I just think they're sexy, man. 1 of 10. They're scarce. There's not a lot of them. I think they're undervalued. Currently, the difference between a super rare and a rare is typically about a super rare is usually like 3 or 4 times more expensive than a rare, which, you know, they're 10 times more scarce. You would think they'd be 10 times more expensive or close to that. But they're not. So I think that there's good value in super rares. I think people do not make the jump from rare to super rare soon enough. I think people tend to spend too much time on rares at the beginning, but I think that there's very good value in buying super rares. And then the nice thing about being able to enter them in D3 and D2 is the prizes are so much better in those divisions, and there's fewer people competing in those divisions. So if you can go out and compete in Division 2, like America, I don't know how many entries there are this week or last week, but it's so much less than when you look at Division 4. It's, 10x less or something. So less people to compete against and better prizes. So Division 2, you can win super rares as prizes. And then Division 3, the only prizes there are, I think, tier 1s and stars. And I think there's some tier 2s in there, but it's better prizes.
Yeah, and what Andy was just talking about. So Division 4, as of right now in America for this upcoming week, is 1,500 people. It's paying about 180 prizes. So we'll probably see about 10 to 12% of people get prizes. And these will range from T3 rare, which is tier 3, which is the lower end cards, all the way to the star rares. But as you see here, there's only 4 star rares and 10 tier 1s for 1,500 people. When we move up to Division 3, right now we see 400 people in Division 3 with 44 prizes. So the prize pool's paying about the same. However, you see that there are 10 star rares and 20 tier 1s. The star rares and the T1s, I know for me personally, and I know that for you, we really want those cards. The tier 1 and the stars are where you're getting your better players that score better and are worth more money. So like for us personally, we want to generate as many of those as we can because we know we can get a good reward.
Real quick, Sean, the stars and the tier 1s, the greatest value in winning those is they're the easiest to sell.
Correct. They're super simple to sell.
Yeah.
And then if you look at Division 2, which again, Andy talked about Division 2, there is the least amount of people. Right now, you have 100 people in Division 2, and 32 are getting cards. It's going to grow a little bit, but I would say about 15 to 20% of people are getting cards. And as Andy said, the rewards in Division 2 are all super rares. So the rewards in Division 3 and 4 are all rares. Generally, super rares are going to be 3 to 4 times the value of what the rare is. So, for example, if you win a star Neymar, you're talking about 4 ETH. If you win a super rare Neymar, you might be talking about 15 ETH. So the difference in what you can win is drastically different in the super rare department. So I would equate, so the Division 4 is probably the equivalent of like a $20 tournament on DraftKings and FanDuel every given week. The Division 3, I would probably equate to being like a $50 to $100 tournament every week. The Division 2, I would equate to probably being like the $300 tournament every week on DraftKings or FanDuel. And then the big division, which we'll talk about right now, is Division 1. This is sort of like the nosebleed stakes. This is your Thunderdome each and every week. And to enter Division 1, you need at least 3 unique cards. The unique cards, as is indicated within their name, is a unique card. There can only be 1 of 1 sold any given year, and there cannot be another mint of that player on a year. So if I click on the uniques here in the lobby, this Mike Van Hamel card is the only unique Mike Van Hamel of the year. So these cards generally end up being about 3 to 4 times the price of super rares, and they are enterable in Division 1, and you can enter one of them in Division 2. So this is where the real heavy hitters are. If you want to really step up and play like the big stakes, this is the type of players that you would be buying and you'd be looking at. But this is another reason, again, why Sorare is so nice and unique. And we think it's going to get even better and more appealing tomorrow. If you have a $500,000 that you want to play, there's a level for you to come in and play. If you have, let's say, $50,000 and you want to come in and play, there's a level for you to come in at. If you have, let's say, $5,000 that you want, there's a level for you. If you have $1,000, you can come in, there's a level for you. We think that tomorrow, with the new scarcity level of the limited edition, that you're going to be able to come in and maybe compete it for $100 or $200 as your budget. And again, like, you can play these guys every single week.
Yeah, maybe less. Who knows?
Maybe less. We're not sure. We're hoping that it brings in a lot of people. So if you're coming in and you're watching this video right now and you're coming onto the platform, it is a great time to come on, because we really think that it is going to continue to grow. And this is probably the best time to come in, because there's not currently enough people on the platform to sustain this new scarcity level where the prices will remain absurdly high. But as the platform continues to grow and we end up, currently there's about, I would say, 25 to 30,000 people, give or take, that are active on the forum. Once that number becomes 300,000, these 1 of 1,000 cards are going to be quite expensive too, don't you think, Black?
Oh, for sure. There's going to be so many, like, the number of people that are playing D1 right now is minuscule. It's tiny. Like, this is the highest of high stakes. And I think over time, there's going to be more and more people that want to play at those stakes, but the appetite for that right now and in the past has just been pretty low. But I mean, obviously the more this grows and the number of, the more people that are attracted to it, there's going to be more high stake players that really want to just play the highest stakes. And in fact, some of those people are really interesting. Like, there's the big guy that's the Real Madrid fan, and he only buys Real Madrid uniques. Like, if you look at his gallery, that's all he has. That's all he wants to play. He plays his 5 Real Madrid guys every week, and it's interesting to see kind of the way people come in and want to spend their money.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because we talked about, like, I own some uniques. Andy, you don't own any uniques currently?
No,
correct?
0.
So I own some uniques and Andy doesn't own some, but it's something he's probably considering at some point in the future. But
Yeah,
as he said, there's a person that's a Real Madrid fan. This guy plays every Real Madrid card. He owns every Real Madrid card. We have a Liverpool fan, buys every Liverpool card that realistically can. We have an Austin FC fan that buys a lot of Austin FC cards. So it's really anybody can come onto the platform, and, like, you never know
what's funny?
Yeah.
We've never really had, like, 2 super fans that were, like, whales. So,
it would be interesting.
Like, if we had 2 giant Liverpool fans, and I'm sure with PSG there was some of that, because there's a lot of this game's was developed in France. A lot of the following started in France, so I think that there was probably a lot of French players. So when maybe Marseille or PSG came out, there might have been a little bit of that, but I mean, if we got 2 big Liverpool high stakes players out there, I mean, it'd be fun to watch some of those auctions.
Definitely. And like I said, like, so I personally, there's another guy that's a big Lille fan. He's a big Los Lille fan. Yeah. And I had a guy that was rumored to go to Lille that was a unique. And I'm just sitting there like, please go to Lille. Please go to Lille. Similarly, like, if I know if a guy goes to Liverpool, I have a person that will be interested in my card. So it's always very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's enough about that stuff. So we'll dig into a bit more of the research aspect tomorrow. I have a special guest on for our next show that is the lead guy, that if anyone has questions on the research and the data and the statistics and the money and the selling, this is the guy that we'll go to. So I'm going to leave most of that for tomorrow. But today we're going to go through how to buy cards. So there are two possible ways in which for you to buy cards on the forum. The first and most useful way for anybody is the auction market. The auction market, to go there, you go to market, new card auctions, and every 3 minutes right now, or the times change. Sometimes it'll be every minute, sometimes it'll be every 3 minutes. It fluctuates, but every single 1 to 3 minutes. And again, this is what we talked about. If you sign up, if you're a new player, using the link in the description below, once you buy 5 rare cards, you will receive a rare card via the auction house. And Andy, you can tell the people. So I received, when I bought my 5th card, I came on the platform and got a Rand Cherokee rare card. Black, do you want to tell everyone like how good of a pull that is and like what that's worth?
Yeah, I don't know what it's worth off the top of my head, but he's one of the best young players in France right now. I think he's 17 years old, something like that, and he's just considered to be the next super kid, so or wonder kid, whatever they call him now. So it's an amazing pull. I mean, there's people pulling tier 3 cards, and there's you pulling a star out of your hat over there.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, like Andy said, like that card is worth a legit $2,000 to $3,000 right away. Like some people are pulling cards that are worth like $100, $200. Some people are getting $500, $600. It all can range, but you probably aren't going to obviously pull someone like that, but you can definitely pull a guy that is valuable to you moving forward. So anyways, back to what we're talking about. You can come into the auction house and you can bid on a card. So what you do in the auction house is every couple minutes, they will run through an auction. So as you see, this Guillaume Guillet just sold at auction. It just got finalized. F. Thibault just bought this card and he paid 0.073 ETH for it. So in 46 seconds, St. Oskazar will be sold at auction. Now to bid on it, all you do is go to bid and then you confirm your bid. Sometimes they ask you to confirm your password and sometimes they don't. It depends how active you are at that time with bidding.
It just depends on if you had already, in that browser session, if you had already unlocked your wallet.
Correct. And up in the last minute, you will see a player will reset the cycle. So if no one bids on St. Oskazar, well, we're looking at it right now, in the next 15 seconds, that player will win the card. If someone bids on St. Oskazar in the next 9 seconds, he will raise another minute on his auction timer, and it will reset and go from there. So as you see, nobody bid on St. Oskazar, and the person that bid Grelis will receive the card. So the way that the bidding works is it's 10% increments. So if a card is 0.09 ETH, the next bid will be 0.099 ETH. If the bid is 0.3975, you'll see that it will give me an auto option of 0.435.
But you can also just bid 1 ETH if you want.
You also can change the price and bid whatever you want. So if I wanted to bid 0.6 ETH, I could jump the bid right to that. And then the next person that bid past that would have to bid 0.66 ETH, which pays the 10%. So that's how the auction market works. Black, do you have any other tips or thoughts on the auction house and how it works?
Yeah, I think that what you just did there, where you raised it something that was outside of that 10%, is a good strategy. Using tools that you're going to discuss tomorrow, Sorare data in particular, you can look at what either the last sales price or what the lowest price of that card currently on the transfer market is. So you can kind of game the system a little bit, where you put in a bid that forces the next person to pay either over the market value, or you get the card for under market value. So there's some interesting things there you can do with kind of your bids.
Correct. And so another good example, and this is the second way to buy cards, and this is why I wanted to do it.
Oh, wait, real quick.
Yes.
You're the high bid on Charles D. Ketelaere?
I'm not.
Oh,
Oh, yes, the unique. Yes, I am the high bid on the unique.
Very cool.
Which, by the way, for anyone watching, I'm not going to win the unique at that price. That price is going to be drastically higher. That's just a personal way that I like to do things, to like mark the card so I can check later his price points. But the other way to buy cards is on the secondary market. The secondary market is a manager to manager sales market. So people can list a card to sell, and you can buy the card by searching in the search bar up here. You can type in De Ketelaere, which I just did here, and his name will pop up. You click on him, it'll take you to his description page. You click on cards, and then as you see, any of these that say buy with the shopping cart next to them, you can buy that directly right away. So the auctions don't end right away. They might be a day ahead. So like, let's say you wanted someone, I know there's a card that I'm interested in, Mike Trezor. So I can look for Mike Trezor right now. And I go to him and I see that Mike Trezor has an auction that ends in 10 hours. So I can place a bid on Mike Trezor. So to bid, I'm going to go to bid. And you see it goes up 10% from what it previously was. And I hit bid, and I am now the high bidder on Mike Trezor. Now, the issue is that auction does not end for 10 hours. Also, I'm very unlikely to win the bid at 0.127 Ether. He is likely to go higher than that. So if I want to win it, I'm going to generally have to make more bids or a higher bid to get it. The way that I could do it a different way is if I want a card on the secondary market, I can come to his page and I can see all of the cards that are available of Mike Trezor. So you can see all cards that people want to sell. And as you see here, we have a rare card that someone would like to sell of Mike Trezor. We have a super rare that's on auction. We have some rares that are on auctions. So let's say that I really want this card right this second. I could just look here, look at the XP bonuses, see who has the best XP, and then also factor in the price. So this card is 0.045 cheaper than this card. So for example, if I really wanted Mike Trezor this exact second, I would come to this page and I would hit buy, and I could buy Mike Trezor right now. So as you saw with Charles de Ketelaere, which we'll go back for, sometimes people make a mistake and they will just bid on a new card. Sometimes that's because they want a new version. Sometimes it's because they really want a newer card. But this is the card that we just saw auction of Charles de Ketelaere, and it went for 0.395 Ether. You could buy his last season card for 0.37 Ether and save yourself some money if you want. Another option is if you click on this card, you can send a person a different offer. So for example, if I want to send an offer to Chief Dork, Andy, do you have another account?
Well done.
You would send an offer. You would hit make offer. And let's say you thought that Charles de Ketelaere is worth 0.3. You send 0.3 as an offer to him. You hit send. That guy will receive this offer into his notifications and his offers, and he can decide whether or not he wants to reject that offer or accept it.
And I'll quickly be offended by your offer, and I will block you.
Yes, that can also happen. If you try to be respectful to people, I would not recommend coming in and super lowballing someone. Most people, if you send a respectable offer, a lot of the time will accept. Or another option is the Discord. We'll talk about that a bit more tomorrow. There's a Discord, the Sorare Discord. A lot of people on Sorare are on the Discord, and you might be able to reach out to someone. This is actually how Andy and I met, is we have been able to connect via the Discord and started talking. Like maybe we talked to trade at first where I said, hey, I'm interested in your Charles de Ketelaere. I'll pay you 0.3 Ether. And then you came back to me and said, I'll sell them, but I want 0.35. And then maybe I said, hey, I'll meet in the middle, 0.325. And that's how we would start a conversation. And then all of a sudden you start making inroads and you start meeting friends on there. And I know I use it all the time, the Discord. I'm on there frequently. If anyone ever comes on, feel free to reach out to me. But a lot of the time, if I want a card, let's just say I know this is the card I was looking for. So like Romelu Lukaku recently,
By the way,
really
are you still targeting him now?
I'm not. I decided to give up, and I got Lautaro Martinez, which currently looks like it will be better with my planning than getting Lukaku, but that wasn't the plan originally.
Well, you're still focused on making an Inter Milan stack,
yes,
right?
And I have completed the Inter Milan stack.
Is Lautaro staying?
He is rumored to be possibly staying, possibly leaving. It's unknown, but what I heard is that they're going to sell Lukaku and they want to keep Lautaro in that.
Well, Lukaku landed in London today to sign paperwork, so
correct.
That's done. Yeah.
The rumor from Inter was that with them selling Lukaku, they wanted to keep Lautaro.
Okay,
which
that makes
would
sense.
Be good for me. But so, for example, like the Discord connections, I'll look through this and I will see who is selling Lukaku. I also will see who has Lukaku that maybe doesn't have it listed for sale right now. But I know some of these people. For example, I've talked to Basil P before. So I might just reach out to him on Discord and be like, hey, are you interested in selling Lukaku at this price? Because I'm looking to buy. It's a good way to make connections with people. But these are the two most reasonable ways to buy and sell cards. The last option is you can trade cards. So, for example, if I really wanted this Lukaku from Basil P, I maybe have a Neymar that I don't want anymore. And I could be like, hey, are you interested in trading me Neymar for Lukaku? And he may be like, yes, or he may be no. I have found that this is done much better in terms of via the Discord. I think I've accepted 1 or 2 trade offers, period, without talking to people. Have you accepted more or had more success? Like people just offering a trade?
Most of the time, it's people like trying to get like 4 card, like trying to get 1 card from me and trying to offer like 4 cards worth of junk. So, no, I haven't made any deals like that where I get cold called and they're making the deal of 4 Asian players I've never heard of for some star player I have.
Yeah, it can get frustrating, but that's why there's nice aspects of different paths. Like for example, if you want to buy Romelu Lukaku this exact second, you can go do it. Mm-hmm. If you want to offer someone less money to buy Romelu Lukaku, you can do that. Mm-hmm. If you want to talk to someone on Discord and try to make a trade, you can do that. If you want a card via auction and nobody's willing to sell that card, you can usually find a player in auction at some point. Now, the issue with that is that if there is a 1 of 10, you're looking for a super rare, or even a 1 of 100 card, it might not auction every day. For example, we just looked up Romelu Lukaku. If I wanted to win him on auction, I could not do it right now, and I'm not sure the next time that I would be able to do so. Mm-hmm. Compared to if I want to buy Mike Trezor, who we looked at, I could go and look and see. I have a lot of options to buy him. I have some people that have him listed now I could buy it from. I have some people I could reach out to get a lower offer or a trade offer. And I also have a way to win it via auction. The nice part about the auction is no matter what, if you keep bidding, you're going to win the card. So if there's no Mike Trezors listed and I really want that card, I'm going to get that card in that auction. And the way I like to use the secondary market versus the auction market is I will look at, for example, that Charles de Ketelaere. I will see that his low price in the secondary market is 0.37 Ether. So I will not go over that in the auction house. Do you do something similar to that, Andy?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, I'm just going to keep going back to Sorare data. I'll look at the average sale price on there. I'll compare it to the lowest on the market. I wouldn't say I would never not go over the lowest on the secondary market, but there would have to be a compelling reason, like maybe if it's a 1 of 100 or 100 of 100 card, or a jersey mint or something like that. I might be willing to go over
9 Sven Coombs card.
You got it. A little bit of wisdom on trades. I think that people should really look at the gallery of the person they're trading with. And I don't think people do this enough, but if you want to get maybe a little bit of value, but like maybe save a little bit of money, make a trade offer that makes sense to the person that you're trading with. Maybe they have 4 players that play for Gank, but they're missing Gank's forward. and maybe you have ganks forward and you can offer that. Maybe you'll get a little bit of extra value, knowing that that kind of completes a full squad for that person. They might care, they might not care, but really trying to kind of get in the head of the person that you're making the trade with, instead of just offering a, off the wall random trade that makes no sense to the person on the other end. Got to really think things through and be strategic.
Yeah, and it really can help. And perfect example of this, I was talking to someone today. They had Ashraf Hakimi, who's about 1 Ether card, and they really wanted a Ronaldo. So they were looking through galleries, and one person had a Donnarumma that had a Ronaldo for sale. So they thought it would be a good idea, which it was, to talk to the person and be like, hey, are you interested in my Hakimi for Ronaldo? Because you had Donnarumma. So it made sense. Like, it was something that made sense. Now, granted, this person was not interested, and they valued Ronaldo as more, which again can happen. But as Andy said, if you look for trade offers that are mutually beneficial and make both parties feel good, you generally will have more success making trades than just offering someone a player that they don't need or have any interest in. Because in that situation, they're just not going to be going for it. So, and I'm not going to go fully into this today, but I'm going to give you a brief sneak of what we'll be talking about a bit tomorrow. Again, make sure you tune in if you want to learn how to research things. So the best research tool in the Sorare universe, for those of you that come to RotoGrinders, you guys come to RotoGrinders for advice in football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, whatever it is that you come to RotoGrinders for. There's only one place to go for Sorare information. And luckily for everybody, for now at least, it is free. And it is called Sorare Data. And Sorare Data has just an unlimited amount of information. You can see what auction volume is, what the offer volume is. You can see players that are coming up for auctions. This is the current auction list that you guys saw a little bit ago when we were on Sorare. And you can see what some of these players are listed at. And by looking at this, so for example, Chris Durkin, his current bid with 4 minutes to go is 0.081 Ether. If you look to the left, you see his 3-day average, which is 0.075. You look to the right, best market price means that someone currently has a Chris Durkin listed for 0.08 Ether. So if you don't have this bid in at 0.081, the next bid is effectively 0.09. You can just look and be like, well, do I really want to bid 0.089? Or do I want to just go buy it off the secondary market? And the biggest thing is, too, is you can look at each individual player. We'll use Chris Durkin, for example. He's one of the guys I like personally on the forum. I have a decent stake in. And he's American, which also helps. But you can go to his individual player page and you can see what his price graph has been over a certain time frame. So you see what people have been paying for him. So you see his price has gone up a decent amount over recent times. You can see his selling average, what players are being sold at. You can see his rolling history. So the mini boom of Sorare that we'll talk about at some point during this thing happened in February, March, April time. You can see the prices there. But some of the main things I like to look at personally is auction prices. So I can see a trend of what his auction prices have been when he's auctioned off. I can look at the offers. Now these offers, these are the lowest cards on the market. And these are also the lowest prices people paid to buy his card.
No. The ones on bottom are over time. So 8.11, 8.9. So they're not the lowest. They're just what people have paid over the last 4 auctions.
So this is a good way to measure what people have been paying for him in the past little bit. And then my personal favorite and what I like to do is for scoring purposes. I'll talk a little bit about the scoring matrix tomorrow with our guest then, but the scoring and the data is best found on Sorare Data. Sorare has the last 5 games. Sorare Data has a more complete list of things, and you can see the score sets in which people control. Andy talked about earlier, the most important thing with players in terms of the fantasy aspect of the game, they have to play the game. If someone sits out and does not play a given game due to injury, rotation or anything like that, it's really detrimental to you. So you can come to this page and see, like, does my player play every game? Does he have a lot of DNPs? If he had a DNP, maybe you can sort of research why. Maybe he was injured or another reason. And you can also see, like, what type of scores you have. So a general average is around 50 points. So if you see a guy that averages around 50, 55 points, you'll know what to expect. For example, if I go to Neymar, you will see what Neymar puts up. So you see Neymar's score lines are very, very good. So the low score a player can get is 0 points, and a high a player can get is 100 points. And again, I'll talk more about the scoring in our next episode and go over that. But these are some of the things I like to use on Sorare data. What is some of your favorites, Andy?
This screen right here, the SO5 scores. I use the auctions tab all the time just to see, like, hey, over time, what were the prices of this player? And then I think if you go back to the price graph, there's a pretty neat toggle here where you can show expired listings for a player. Other one. So if I'm trying to sell a particular player, see the tab right next to it where it says show expired listings to the left of that? Yeah, so I can see where people attempted to sell that card, but it expired, like it didn't sell at that price. So I might be able to tell that, hey, everybody was listing Neymar for 5 ETH and it wasn't selling. So that means I probably need to sell it for less. And then honestly, you cannot play Sorare without Sorare data. Like, you literally can't. So I would probably start here.
Yes. Yes. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow. Something I did, I'm sure something Andy did, I'm sure it's something almost everyone does, is they do not think before buying cards. And what happens when you don't think before you buy cards is you end up in a path that isn't efficient with your spending of money. I know someone that came onto the platform and they spent like 5 ETH that was very inefficient, and it put them way behind the 8 ball because they couldn't resell the cards for that price, and they weren't good at winning cards in general. So they ended up having to spend 5 ETH to like recuperate the 5 ETH that they spent. So it's something that I would definitely start on Sorare data, and I'm excited for our guest tomorrow to go in depth with everyone on Sorare data and like all the tools and aspects of Sorare data and how to utilize it. So we'll dig more into that tomorrow. I just wanted to give everyone a visual of it today. So anyways, back on the Sorare platform. And then, so once we talked about ways to buy the cards, then we talked about a bit about when you go to play the cards and how you play the cards. So each given game week, you go in, you set your lineups, similar to how you would set DFS lineups and all of those things. So for example, let's say I want to set my D4 lineup. I go to global D4. And I can see all the cards that I have available to play. So I can look through these and pick out which cards I want. You can see that they give a average score. And again, Andy and I talk about, we use Sorare data. They have a lot more data on Sorare data than Sorare provides. So like when looking at Jung Sung Rong, for example, I can see his last 15 game scores. I can see his last 40 game score. I can also get an opponent score, and it really helps you in creating lineups. But so for example, you could create a lineup for a given game week and get your 5 guys in there, and all of a sudden, once you have your 5 guys in there, you've entered your D4 lineup, you pick a captain. So you would pick which player you think will score the most points, make him the captain, and that lineup is set for the week. So this lineup, for example, going into this game week, I will get my fantasy points for each of these 5 players to add up. Plus, I get their bonus, what you see here. So all of these cards, these are my card bonus. So I said it can go over 10. So as you can see, Justin Bigelow has a season bonus of 5, and he has an XP bonus of 5.5. So you get that bonus, and then you captain a player. The captain gets a 20% bonus on top of their bonus. So let's say I want to captain Pedro Gonzalez. That means his card is worth 29.5 points or 29.5% more than what they score. So like, for example, it would be a 1.295 multiplier on his score line. So if he scores 100 points, I will receive 129.5 points from him. And so like, you can, again, enter one lineup per division, and you can go through each division and set a lineup that you have the cards for. If you do not have the cards for that division, you will not be able to enter it because you won't have the requirements to enter. So for example, like, I could go enter a global D1 lineup this weekend, but if Andy was playing and he tried to enter it, he wouldn't have the requirements available to save his lineup and make it valid.
I believe actually Global All-Star D1 is just grayed out for me. I can't even access it.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. So Andy can't even access Global All-Star D1 because he does not have the players in order to enter it. So that is how you enter the tournaments on a given week. And this is what we do each and every week. And the training that Andy and I talked about. Andy, why don't you explain to people a little bit how training works?
Nobody knows.
That's exactly correct. But
okay, so in short, you fill out a 5-player team of players that you want to have XP gained on them. Make sure that you do it because it is valuable over time. It's monotonous, and if you have a lot of cards, it can get annoying, but it needs to be done.
Yeah, and Andy said, like, nobody knows the exact science of the training. We could figure it out. We just don't really put the time and effort into it because it's not that important. But the way that it works is sort of, it gives points based on how many points that team scores in a given week. So the training lineup will work similar to how your other lineups work. And your training lineup will receive a point value with how they did on that given week. And you will therefore receive a XP boost based on that. And XP adds up over time. And every so many points, you hit a tier. Each tier, you get a half a point of XP bonus. So, for example, my Brisson has hit 3.5 points of an XP bonus since I've earned him. So I've hit 7 tiers worth of points.
I will say, even if your players don't have a game, you might even put 5 guys in there that don't have games at all. There is a base XP bonus for just going into the training lineup. So even if you have players that aren't playing, put them in a training lineup, they will get XP.
Correct. And every week I go through, make sure all my training lineups are good to go so that I am receiving points from it. So the training is important. Again, if you don't have the time to set it on a given week, it could hurt you down the road. It might not, but it could. And let me tell you, it's not fun if it does.
Yeah. The team has said they do understand that the training section is not finished, not ideal, and they want to create a basically a strategic component to training where you have to make decisions or choices based on different things. So maybe you have to, I don't know, they're going to build this out and it's going to be better.
Yeah, what is your opinion on that with the training? I know we have a friend that obviously wants it to just be super simple. I am torn because right now it's very cumbersome and very difficult, but I also know that if I out-effort people, it really benefits me. So, like, do you like how it is now, or do you want it to just be simple where, like, you click a button and it's done?
I don't want that either. I want I want to have to build a strategy. So maybe, and I won't get into too many details of my grand ideas or whatever because they're probably not grand, but I would like there to be some sort of choice or decision built around, maybe I'm capped at only putting 3 lineups in, but maybe they get more XP, something like that, where I have to really think, okay, who do I want to have the XP boost this week? Do I want to put it on this player because they have an easy match next week and I really want to boost them up as much as I possibly can? Stuff like that. I think that any kind of decision choice strategy that people can put in is going to be helpful to them.
Definitely, and I agree with that a lot. So I think this is a really good introductory video. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns for me, please send them to me on Twitter at PSUFans2. You can send me either a message or you can just tweet at me. Because again, we're going to have a series of shows. The next one will be a further introductory to Sorare data. So if anyone has questions or thoughts on that, please send them to me. And then going forward, we'll be talking a bit more game theory and strategy about who to buy and who to look at. So I guess the last thing I'll touch on is the last way to buy players, and this isn't every team, but some teams, based on their licensing agreement, are sold in bundles. Most cards, as you can see, like Mike Trezor and the Belgian League, is sold individually, so you can just buy one individual player. Some of the bigger teams like Juve, Inter Milan, or AC Milan, and Real Madrid, they're sold in bundles. So what you see is that you would buy these 5 cards. You're not buying just Frank Kessie. You're buying Teo Hernandez, Tatsuranu, Maldini, and Tomori as well. So that's another way to buy cards. And Andy, have you seen that there's some good value with bundles?
Yes. You have to do your research. You have to do your math. You have to get on Sorare data, find the value of all the cards in the bundle. So it is a little bit of work. But I tend to think that every single bundle that gets sold is probably the cards in the bundle are worth more than what the person paid for it.
Yes, a lot of time. And for example, I can give you guys a good example of this. I once bought a Real Madrid bundle that was a Toni Kroos card, a Thibaut Courtois, Eden Hazard, Danny Carvajal, and Andre Lunin super rare, which is one of their young goalie prospects. I was able to sell the Toni Kroos, Thibaut Courtois, and Eden Hazard, and I recouped 100% of my investment and kept the other 2 cards. However, I also bought a Liverpool bundle where I ended up not reselling cards quick enough, and I lost money on that bundle. So it can work either way, but that's a good way to do it. In terms of the scoring matrix, I'm not going to go in depth on the scoring matrix. If anyone wants to come in and understand how the scoring matrix works, you can come in here and look at the how card scores and how player scores are calculated, and it will explain to you exactly how a player registers points. I will say that the scoring matrix on Sorare is a bit complicated, but also very simple. Would you agree? Like it's kind of weird, but like, would you say that's pretty accurate, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as like good players and good performances score well, and bad performances and bad players score poorly. But if you really want to dig into the nitty gritty, you certainly can and find out. You know, there are specific position types that do better than others at different things. You know, wingbacks tend to lose a lot of possessions, and they can be their deviations on their scores can be, you know, quite big. So they might score really low one game, but really, really high for a defender the next. And then, you know, attacking midfielders always seem to churn out pretty good numbers. Defensive midfielders may not get as many goals and assists, but they do really well in the scoring matrix as far as like winning tackles and duels and all that. So, yeah, you can dig into that matrix as much as you want and really strategize around it if you wanted to.
Yeah, and some tips for some people, which we're going to talk about once we get to the strategy section of things. If you guys come on, for those of you that come from DFS, we're going to just use DraftKings as an example. DraftKings set piece takers are incredibly valuable, and fullbacks are incredibly valuable where crosses are scored very heavily. On Sorare, they have similar things with players that are more valuable, but they're different than what they would probably be on DraftKings. For example, center backs generally are very consistent scorers and very strong. And then defensive midfielders, as Andy just alluded to, are generally like your floor type players that have really good scores, but they might not get the super massive high-end scores, but they're going to have their floor. So like, for example, your defensive midfielder with set pieces, he might be equivalent to James Madison in DraftKings scoring, or Trent Alexander-Arnold in DraftKings scoring might be the equivalent to Virgil van Dijk in Sorare scoring. So the scoring matrix is different, but there are also player archetypes that are very valuable that once you sort of research, you can find guys that are like, okay, this guy fits the archetype that I want, and look at those guys. So again, if you want to look up any other advice when it comes to scoring and how that can happen, you can look in the help center. And then another thing to use is if you guys have friends that want to play, you can invite friends as well, and they get the same offer that you guys will get signing up from the link in the description that we have provided today. You get one rare card, and after 5 auction sales to you, and when you refer a person, when they buy 5 cards at auction, they receive 1 free rare card. Also, you receive 1 free rare card. So it's a great way to build your gallery. We have a friend we talked about, Andy Laird. He ended up having about 30 or 35 referrals. Once you hit 30 referrals, you get a unique card, which is going to be worth quite a bit. But on the way, he was able to get 30 different rare cards and a unique at the end of the day that were all very valuable to you. So make sure if you're new and you want to check things out, sign up using the link in the description. Check out the site. Again, if you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, or you can find me in the Discord on Sorare General Discord. You can generally find me in there. You can tag me. I'm generally around. Andy will admit I never leave the computer, so I'm generally available. You can reach out to him. He's around the Discord. Andy, what is your Twitter handle if people want
at ablack86?
At ablack86. If you have any questions about him, he's a big Kai Havertz fan. So if you want to pop onto Twitter and talk to him about Kai, he will be very excited.
He missed a penalty today, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that. Okay. I didn't bring it up. I was being nice,
Okay, fair enough. He also had an assist. So
American God Christian Pulisic didn't miss his penalty.
That's right.
So I mean, you got to go with that thing.
He's scored 2 big penalties, in the last couple months, I guess, or I don't know when was Nations League 3 months ago.
Yeah, probably 2 or 3 months ago. Pulisic's been, I think he's decent from the spot from what he's seen.
Yeah, apparently.
Have many opportunities.
Yeah.
It's always difficult to tell because so few players have opportunities from the spot. It's hard to tell who's confident.
I'll tell you what. After what I saw today, I don't think I'd put Kai on my duties there.
That makes sense. So, Andy, is there anything else you want to talk about, or that you think that people would find interesting before we wrap up here today?
Yeah, honestly, not off the top of my head. I mean, Sorare is revolutionary. It's new. The whole concept might seem a little overwhelming at first. It's like, oh, it's DFS mixed with soccer cards and collectibles and cryptocurrencies. Like it can be kind of overbearing, but it's really not. It's pretty simple. Once you get into it and just start going, it's like, oh, this makes sense. And as you go, I think that people will find that, hey, this is easy. It makes sense.
Yep. And I agree. It's the main thing for me too, is all of you guys come from DFS industry. You pay $1,000 worth of entry fees in a weekend. You could lose $1,000 worth of entry fees. On Sorare, if you spend $1,000 and buy players, you don't lose those players. You maintain those players. And you could honestly look at it like a DFS thing where you are like, hey, I don't want to spend more than $50 this week, so I'm going to buy $50 worth of cards. Well, every time you buy a card, it's going to improve your gallery and improve your chance at winning cards in the future and winning prizes in the future. So you could win easily. Our friend Andy Laird, give an example. His gallery's not huge. He has a modest gallery. And in the last 3 weeks, he's won Global All-Star D4 and Global All-Star D3. Or no, he won America D3.
It's Champion America D3.
It was American D3. So
he won 2 divisions in back-to-back weeks. It's pretty impressive.
He won 2 divisions in back-to-back weeks. His cards are not anything extravagant. He doesn't have the best cards of all time.
With that said, after winning 2 weeks in a row, now he has a Carlos Gil and a Carlos Vela. So it's getting to where he's got the elite guys.
Exactly. So he won the 2 divisions in 2 back-to-back weeks. He received, I believe, 1 to 1.5 ETH from winning those combined, somewhere in that range. And then he won the literal best forward and the literal best midfielder in America, both of which can compete with any of the top-end guys on the entire platform in global. So it's one of those things. You're going to win cards, and you're going to improve your gallery, or you can take money out. I know people that are on the platform that have like a half an ETH invested, and each week they try to hit their threshold and win 0.02 Ether, and then they withdraw that money. And I knew someone that put on 1 Ether. He ended up like getting 3rd or something in Global All-Star D4 after a month, and he won like 0.5 ETH and a 0.7 ETH card. He recouped his entire investment immediately and was just free rolling forever. So there's just so many different ways that you can do things and that you can sort of own whatever you want to do out of it. So it's a really unique platform and it's really taking off. So that'll wrap it up today. Again, be on the lookout for later in the week that we will have another show that will talk a bit more about Sorare data. And then remember, if you're new, make sure you sign up in the link in the description. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. You can find Andy on Twitter, ablack86. And if anything else, you guys got any questions, pop into the Sorare Discord. That will wrap it up for us today. For Andy, I'm Sean. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later.
Thanks all.